Hello everyone. Today we are in the House of Miracles, our Jose's shop, and we are building a 671. Used rotors, new end plates, a good case. It's a big bore unit. A new drive assembly, reinstalling bearings and fixing this thing up. So I put new bearings and seals in this wean case, and the end plate, same thing down there. I'm gonna put these rotors in after I get them cleaned up, make sure there's no burrs. It has a couple good nicks in it. This isn't a race motor. It's gonna make like, if it makes 5 pounds of boost, then big deal. Who cares? It's just more for looks, just like my car. More for looks, but it's fun. But still have a good blower on it. But it's good that you gotta set the clearances and all that fun stuff. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna set the clearances, set the end play, all that stuff bolted together, and then he's gonna find a intake, and it's probably gonna go on that. Anyway, rotors, clean them up, case, bearings, install. I'll see you in a second. Alright, we're videoing this. We're setting it up. So there's a keyway here and a keyway here. And this rotor, if you can look in there, comes down this way and goes up that way. And this one goes the opposite, so it forms in there real nice. But you started out with it. With the keys are in line with this lobe. Key, lobe, 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 lobe. And that's where you set your gears up. So it's basically just like timing marks in a car, or a timing chain. But that's how this part goes. And then that bearing plate gets like a forma gasket, really tight layer around here. Really thin, so on the backside too. And you set clearances by put the caps on, you tighten it all down, then you loosen the bolts up. You start in the back, and you take your feeler gauge between the case and here, but you do it from this inside. So you go from this rib to the case on the back side back here, and you run a feeler gauge, and you want 6 thousandths or more. On this wore out thing, probably as long as it's not tighter than 6, it'll be fine. Because, aluminum expansion, all that stuff, so you don't want to touch. And then you loosen the back bolts up on the back of the case. Loosen these back bolts up. You take your feeler gauge in here. When this rib is where it's supposed to be, you check it. And then you loosen these up, and if it's too tight one way or another, you tap the case or this end plate around. It's got dowels, but you tap it around and you check it, and as soon as you get the clearance you want, you tighten these down and you move to the front and do the same thing. Move it around, and then you set your end gap clearance here. So you check it with a feeler gauge here, and Bob's your uncle. Yeah. And that is how you do it in a concrete floor with a bunch of old motors and a Chevy with a big block and a 30 Dodge Coupe, and who knows what laying around. You never know what we're gonna do here. Heck of a 50th birthday party, We're having a good time. See you later. Alright, we're gonna check some rotor clearances. Let's check this back one on the top. Right at 10. Put the rotors towards each other. We'll bring this one out at the top. 10. That's 10. Nice 10 right there. Let's see. Hold on. Right there. Let's check this one. That's pretty good. Alright, end play. Yeah, we're looser than 10 in the back. Let's check and see what this actually is. Looser than 10, which is good. I'm gonna try 12 and see what happens. Check this rear clearance. Right about 12. Let's check the front here. Oh yeah, the front's right exactly 12 in the front. All right, bottom side. Check these same clearances out here. Let me get this feeler gauge open. Hope the mic's working good. If not, I'm gonna be kind of upset because I want the recording of this to work good. Okay, here we go. Let's check this rotor here. Backside. Alright. Oh, that's tight. That's real tight. It's tighter than I want. How tight is it actually? Let's see. Oh, that's not 10. Oh, maybe 8. Let's try this one. Oh, no. It is 9 in the back, on the bottom, in the front, 9 on this side, 10 on the top, 9 on the bottom. Let's check this one. Yeah. Nope. About 8 in that corner. So it's 8 in that corner. I'm gonna fix that real quick. My mallet. No, it's right here. Okay, where's this mallet? I'm gonna fix it and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're 8 all the way around. Looking good. Now I gotta time the rotors back up again. The way they were. Nope, they were this way. Put this key out here to this side. Right there. Alright, that's it. Alright, so I was just in here checking out this Chevy. It's pretty cool, big block. Anyway, here's the blower. So there's an air hose outside. Hope it doesn't bother you guys. Anyway, I just want to talk about, clarify. So the end play on the blower is based on how much distance, it is from the end of the case to the rotors and all that stuff. And a guy can cut that down and change it and shape these end plates and all that stuff in a lathe and whatnot. But right now I've got 12 thousandths in the back and 13 thousandths in the front, and I'm 8 thousandths top and bottom clearance in all 4 corners all the way around on this blower. Now this is what you gotta set as the timing. So there's a keyed mark. There's a key I showed you on this already, on this shaft. Key there and a key there. And you set these in when they're timed right. And so the distance that these gears are out from each other, just like a ring and pinion, will change how close those rotors get to each other when they're swinging. So if you make one, say this one is solid and the clearance is here, if I push the gear that way, it'll tighten it up. So every 3 thousandths you take off the back of this or shim it, adds or subtracts an inch. So if I take 3 thousandths off this, it tightens up the rotor clearance 1/1000th of an inch. If I add a 3 thousandths shim, it loosens it up by 1/1000th. I'm gonna try and see if I can get it around 8 thousandths, 8 to 10 thousandths in there. That's what we got going on right here. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's something I wanted to show you guys. 4-speed. Alright, I'm going to throw this hub together. This front drive assembly out of a box. So basically, there's a collar, a snap ring, and 2 bearings. and this is your drive hub. There's a big snap ring. So this drive hub bolts onto the front here, like so, more or less. And then this shaft has splines, sticks out the back, and it's got bearings in there. So this is what you see with the pulley on it right here. So essentially it engages here. Well, it engages that. It engages this thing right here. It engages this thing. So this is your hub for your, I guess it'd be the blower, hub, snout, distance. Then there's two bearings here that have this collar in between, and a big snap ring and a seal. So I'm gonna drop bearing, spacer, bearing, seal, and all that fun stuff in there. And I'm gonna put this together, and I'll show what it looks like when I get back. Let's get you up there where you can. I look like I'm talking to you. Is that right? See, I'm right here. You can see my lovely face. Anyway, what's in the box? I'll tell you later. It does go to this car, yes. I'm not putting it on there. What I am doing is I'm making an end video to the supercharger video that you guys have just been watching. What I didn't put in there when I got interrupted was what you didn't get to see, and let me show you. Can you all see that in there, or do I need to get light? How well can you see? You can see. Let me get some light in here. Hold on. Hold please. Hold. Oh, fail. Fail. Supercharger. Remind me to tell you a story about my buddy Rocky and his short and 57 Chevy and his blower. Because looking at this reminded me of that just all of a sudden. Okay, that looks a lot better. Okay. The drive assembly. I put that other one together. What you didn't see is I ended up pressing. So I pressed the one bearing into the case, into the snout. Now, this is a two-piece. This has a different blower snout hub blower snout that I can buy. They're different distances here. This one's pretty short. It actually has a 3/4 inch spacer to bring it out because on the drag car it was much closer. It didn't have a water pump and all that stuff. But anyway, the wean case on the other blower, it has, so there's two drive gears. Two things happen. The gears that go here, those helical ones I had, and you saw in the one video where the back side of it was about that thick. Well, it needed about 3/4 of an inch milled off of it because that set of gears was for I think it was for a different series blower, and it didn't have the gears that set closer to the bearing housing. They sat out real far, so the housing wouldn't go on. Problem number one. Problem number two. Well, that was problem number 1 and 2 and 5. So that was it. So that was the only reason that blower didn't get done. What you didn't see was, didn't see me get those finally assembled in and realize that I had made a mistake and that they're the wrong gears. And what I found out was that blower had never been together ever. It was all, there was no extra pieces. There was nothing. So I ended up actually shaving off the back side of one of those gears. I took about 30 thousandths off when it stepped it in 10 thousandths. When I first put together when they were zeroed out, the rotors were real close to one side. So as I moved it, it ended up moving about 10 thousandths, which gave me right in the middle. Because it was 18 to 20, I think, and it put me right in the middle. So the clearance is exact. How I checked the clearance was you stick a long feeler gauge in between the rotors, and you roll them around there, and you just go till I like to spin the rotor and get it to where, because the rotor will come and kind of grab the next one as they go by. And so what you're checking is that clearance in here. You don't want it too close or too high. And so what I was checking was the clearance. So you run a feeler gauge in here. And I like to spin them all the way through their movement to go through the contact. And when I do that, I can find the tight part. And that one was like, it would bind at like 18 thousandths. And so I figured my feeler gauge wasn't as, it was kind of bent, and it might have been, so I was figuring 18 to 20 is where I was at. And that was full clearance. So what I wanted to do was move it all the way to one side and bring it all the way to the other side, and then find the happy medium, and that's what I ended up doing when I set the timing. And I ended up shaving the back side of that one off 30 thousandths. That was before I realized the gear sat off the end of the bearing house too far. So the other thing I didn't describe is how you get end clearance difference. I mistakenly said you shave the bearing plates. You don't. You shave the end of the rotor. If you need to tighten them up, you can mill the end of the case. And so it brings, when they're assembled, the bearings, bearing housing, and case and rotor link, that's all set. And where the bearings are, they're all set. So whatever that ends up being is where they are when they're in there. When you got all the plates on and everything's tightened down, that's whatever that is. But I always recheck it after everything is torqued anyway. All my top and bottom rotor clearances, the rotor to case clearance is what I was checking. I ended up with, I think 9 thousandths all the way around is what it finally was, and it was all torqued together. Except for this housing wasn't on, which doesn't matter. I ended up torquing all this and torquing the gears on 9 thousandths all the way. And it ended up being 14 and 12 is what the end play was, which is fine. And then I had it 8 to 10. In the middle was the clearance in between. And so, yeah, back to this. So the way I ended up setting this up was it goes bearing, then there's a collar or spacer, and then bearing, and then seal, and the shaft presses in. So you press the bearings in. I press the bottom bearing in. I drop the spacer in, and the spacer goes distance for however long the shaft is, which on your you need to know that for lining up to the bottom pulley or whatever. You'll want to get like differences, like 2-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, depending on what your application is. You can buy a new blower snout. So the snout length, when I set that in there, I actually put the shaft on from the backside and lined the collar up and pressed the second bearing in. So it went through the collar and into the bearing, and the splines were smaller than the other bearing inner diameter, so that kept the collar safe. So when I spun around and pressed it in that way, ended up being just fine. What is this? Oh, water. It's off my shirt from surfing this morning. I thought a dog peed right there, but that wasn't it. Anyway, so that's what ended up happening. I ended up pressing the shaft back in there, and then there's a snap ring on the back side. You press it all the way, and the snap ring holds it. Just like this one. This shaft is actually loosed, and I should get a new shaft. I will eventually. I'll just get a whole new. I'll get a new shaft and press it in there, or get a whole new blower snout on this one later. But yeah, that's it. So the end of that blower saga is it is sitting there. He's going to go have the gears machined and then put it back on exactly the way they are. He'll take off whatever it's got to be on the back, minus whatever I needed for the distance to get the timing right. And then he'll shave off the front of them, and that one will mount on, and then the house will mount. I also had a different cover. I had the old style cover on there too, with the triangle here to check for that. Anyway, I'm sidetracking myself. But that's what you missed. You missed the blower final assembly, which didn't happen yet. I mean, the timing and all that stuff is there, but the snout and cover didn't go on the front of it, so he couldn't put it on a car, put it on a manifold. You didn't see it run, but it's going to be nice. It spins over nice. It's real tight. If you saw me moving it, it's the seals, and that's one thing I didn't show you. If you look in the film, you can see the seals on the inside there. The lip always goes towards the rotor on the back and the front. Always. And those seals that you get for the high-speed bearings for changing them from like a diesel blower and converting it over to a gas blower, you just change the bearings to high-speed style bearings, and you change the seals, and the seals end up coming double-lipped, but the lip goes to the outside, not to the bearing side. It goes to the rotor side on both ends. And that's it. I guess that's it. It needs a top plate and some gaskets and, you know, the carburetor plate and the manifold, and that's about it. That thing will be good to go. It'll run for a while. It's not stripped, just like this one's not stripped, and it'll last many years, or until the bearings need to be done again. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for hanging out. And now you know everything there is to know about rebuilding the blower. No, you don't. You should probably check with a professional. I'm just a hack. Oh, and one more thing. Who guessed it? Do I have to say it? 4-speed. All right. See you kids later.